Welcome to This is Yoga Therapy. I'm your host, Michelle Lawrence. Join me as we venture beyond the mat into the fascinating intersections of yoga and health. Each episode brings you candid conversations with the visionary leaders and practitioners who are truly shaping this field, sharing their stories, insights, and the profound impact of yoga therapy in action. In today's episode, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome back a very special guest, Dr. Katy Jane. She's an intuitive, a Vedic astrologer, and was named one of the top 75 yogis who are shifting the planet by Origin magazine. And she uses the ancient wisdom of the stars to help people align with their most authentic life and their true purpose. I've known Katy for a long time now, and I've had you on the podcast before, so it's really wonderful to have you back on the show, to be in conversation again. It feels really great to have you on this time of year, too, as we're looking forward to what the new year, 2026, will bring. So welcome back.
Thanks so much, Michelle. I think it's been almost exactly a year ago when I was on your show to talk about 2025.
That's right.
So I'm delighted to be back and to share the good news of the year ahead.
Yes, well, we're going to get into that in just a moment, not only what 2026 has in store for us, but also the news that you have a new book coming out.
I do have a new book coming out, and it is called Moon Signs for the Soul. And it goes into how your Vedic moon sign reveals who you are, why you're born, and how to live a purpose-led life.
Mm-hmm.
So what I really love about Vedic astrology, and I'll share more in our conversation, is that your moon sign gives you a blueprint of your higher purpose, your inborn destiny. And it shows you the part of you that's been guiding you all along, even when you may not have known that it was. So my book is written to help you identify your best qualities, your best traits, and how to apply them when you encounter your karmic patterns, those repetitive things that make you feel like you're off course. But there's a deeper reason why I am publishing this book now in 2026 is because I believe that we're heading into a collective identity crisis. And I'll share more about this when I go into the nuances of 2026. But this really has to do with artificial intelligence and the crisis that's coming in our workforce. And with that crisis comes a question that reverberates through the collective. And that is, who am I now if I'm not my job?
Yeah.
And that question is at the basis of self-inquiry, which is the start of the spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
So 2026 has this crisis, but as the Chinese symbol for crisis is also opportunity, it's also a great evolutionary opportunity. And your moon sign reveals that part of yourself that the robot cannot replicate. Your living intelligence, your creative source, the part of you that can choose and decide. And this is why I felt that 2026 is the right time for this book to come out as a guide. Because, for those of us that have been on the spiritual path forever and ever, to us, this question is normal. It's what prompted the spiritual journey.
Sure.
But, for masses of people, they may not have had that awakening or that understanding, but it comes as a crisis. as it has for everybody who gets on a spiritual path, usually, except if you suffer from divine discontent and you stumble into it because you're bored. Everything goes well for you, so it's the next best thing. But for most of us, we come onto the spiritual path because of a crisis, and a crisis of identity. Who am I? So this question, like I said, becomes a mass question. And all of us who have had experience in guiding others need to come out in full force. Because it is a big problem as we transition to a radically different world, which reshapes our workforce and our identity and our livelihood, our meaning and our purpose.
So let's talk a little bit more about the moon sign. So it sounds like you were prompted to put this out there now because we need it, right? We've got some big shifts coming. That was really the catalyst. And you spoke a little bit about the difference between the moon and the sun, but I would say most people are probably more familiar with, Western astrology and the sun signs. And so what makes the 27 Vedic moon signs so fundamentally different? And why do they offer a deeper roadmap for the soul? You've said that they do, but talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, this is a big question, and everybody always asks it, especially when they discover their Vedic moon sign and they stop and say, wait, I thought I was a Libra. What is this? And yeah, the problem is that the language is the same in both systems, but they mean different things. So there is a fundamental difference between Western, or we call it tropical astrology, and Vedic astrology, which is called sidereal. And each one of them has a different way of calculating time. So very briefly, without, getting too much into astro speak, the Western system calculates time according to the sun's apparent movement. Apparent because we know the earth moves around the sun, but from our perspective on the earth, it looks like the sun is moving around the earth. According to the equinoxes and the solstices, these 4 positions. So this helps us calculate the year, 365 days, and the lifetime of 100 years for human. So it really shows who we are in this lifetime and our outer personality. The moon signs, however, are based on this Vedic calculation of the zodiac, which is according to not these 4 positions of the tropical zodiac, but 27 fixed constellations in the sky. We call them nakshatras. Nakshatra just means eternal points of reference. And the moon moves through these every month. And through this movement, we are actually able to calculate time according to trillions of years. Really vast amounts of years, this clock that they devised in the Vedic civilization is really mind-blowing. And it's led us to speculate, okay, well, why? Why did they need to calculate time according to trillions of years that then repeat? So time is eternal and calculable. We can determine the units of time within infinity. This is really mind-blowing. And why? So some speculate that, it was devised to help us know when to plant and when to harvest. But we don't need trillions of years for that information. It's actually a more spiritual reason behind this invention of the zodiac, and that is to measure the evolutionary trajectory or progress of humankind on both the collective level and the individual level. So these trillions of years can show your soul's path back to unity, which is the goal of the Vedas.
Sure.
From diversity, we return to unity. The Creator said, I am one, may I become many. And then the evolutionary path is the many then return back to the one. This is the completion of the circle. This is the evolutionary journey. And that calculation of time shows us your soul's path along that journey of time. The way that we see the part of your life story that you're working out in this lifetime is through your moon sign. So your moon sign is a snapshot of your evolutionary journey in this lifetime. What you're meant to accomplish, what is your goal, what's the purpose behind your life, and what are all the lessons, what's the curriculum that you have to undergo in order to grow into or evolve into that life purpose. So it's really fascinating. So your Vedic birth chart becomes a map for you to know not only who you are, what you came here for, what's the goal of your life, but how to use your turning points, those karmic wake-ups, those difficult moments more efficiently. To use the power of choice in those moments to align with your higher purpose. This is the real reason behind your moon sign.
Right. It's beautiful. And, I have worked with you for a number of years to get some insight into that. And so beneficial, so helpful, not just once, but over the course of time, so that I can also have an understanding of what's happening on the larger scale from year to year. And I know that in your book, you do mention a lot of real stories of people that you work with, right? And maybe just you can give us a little glimpse, someone, of course, anonymous, right? But an example of how understanding that person's moon sign helped them navigate a major turning point in their life, like a heartbreak or a career shift or a moment of loss.
Oh yeah, this is really great. Most astrology books focus on celebrities.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I share the same, sign as Beyonce. It's inspiring, but it's not realistic. And so
Really?
no, not me. I'm just saying hypothetically.
Yes. Just wanted to double check.
No, mine is Imelda Marcos.
Okay, I think I've heard you say that before.
Yeah, which I mean, she's famous, but I don't know if I'm
Right.
so inspired by that. Although I do have a large collection of shoes.
Right.
But yeah, so my book focuses on the real clients that I've worked with over 25 years and their life stories. And so I feel like it's much more grounded in what we really face in our real lives, and at the same time, the people who I've worked with are extraordinary. So I have a lot of stories, and as you asked that question, I was like, oh God, which one should I mention? But I think that I'll share the story of my client who was a child prodigy, violinist. And she had gone to Juilliard, and she was just about ready to accept a fellowship at Yale, like a postdoc or some post, whatever they have for MFA people. And her apartment in Manhattan was broken into. And she had a Stradivarius. and it was priceless.
Mm-hmm.
And that, among other things, was stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And she came to me, I mean, obviously bereft, but also wondering if it wasn't a sign to rethink her life path, because she had always been conditioned for perfection and had never questioned her path and had conformed to what her mother mostly wanted for her. And so she wondered if this wasn't a sign. And so when I sat with her, I revealed to her that her moon sign was Punarvasu, which means again the light. And it assures that whatever is taken from you is returned. But it prompts a hero's journey. So when something goes missing, you're given this charter to find it, to search for it. So anyway, she took this to heart. She gave up the Yale Fellowship and she started traveling all around the world, like with a borrowed violin and a ukulele and I think even a kazoo. Like she just started to express her music in a different way. She became a street performer and funded her travel around the world this way. But this is what's really fascinating about her moon sign. So after her hero's journey, she comes back to New York and she's in her old neighborhood and she passes by a pawn shop and there's her violin.
Oh my God.
For $50.
Wow.
And I mean, so then she buys a violin, obviously, and she takes it like, okay, my life has been returned to me in typical Punarvasu fashion.
Wow.
Her and she started playing in orchestra again, and her career went back to what it was, but she was changed inside. And this is her dharma. This is the dharma of the moon sign.
Yeah.
But what really helped her in that moment when her world fell apart, her violin was stolen, and it caused her to question her life path. Had she not known her imprint, it would have been a really devastating moment. What do you do in those times? Where do you go? What do you turn? Where do you turn? A lot of us turn to therapy, which is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But this gives us a deeper knowing. It gave her trust that, okay, I know that this pattern lives in me. This is my truth. And I can trust it to guide me in the right direction. Knowing that everything will be returned to me eventually.
What a beautiful story. Yeah, and I'm sure you've got slews of them. Yeah.
The whole book is full of them. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Well, when is it coming out, the book?
It will definitely be out by the beginning of the year, if not before. I'm hoping the Kindle will come out within the next 2 weeks, November time, end of November to beginning December. Excellent. But definitely by beginning of 2026.
Good. Well, let's talk about 2026.
All right, let's.
I listened to a session you gave earlier this week, so I have a little preview personally, but I'd love for you to kind of share with our listeners some of the bigger themes. You've labeled it potentially the year of miracles, but also a time of global crisis, and you've already spoken to that a little bit already just here. So from a Vedic perspective, what are the major planetary placements influencing this significant year? What are those standout things about 2026?
Well, the first thing that I can say about 2026 is that we can really exhale because after a period, a good, 5 years, we have been under the influence of Saturn. And it has been a very heavy time for the world and for individuals. But as of March of 2025, things started to shift. And that was the movement of Saturn into the sign of Pisces in Vedic astrology and the rise of Jupiter's dominance. So Jupiter gives us hope, faith, optimism, and Saturn in Jupiter's sign of Pisces allows our ideals to manifest, our visions to manifest. This is the hope that overrides some of the turbulence of 2026. But the turbulence of 2026 is, so mild. It's like hardly noticeable compared to 2025. 2025 numerologically was a 9 year. And 9 is a perfect number. Every multiple of 9 always equals 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9, and so on. So it is the number of perfection, of completions. It's also the number of guru. Guru in Sanskrit means heavy. So while it does connote awakening, enlightenments, higher spiritual values, it comes through the muck that the lotus blooms out of. Look at all the heavy stuff that happened in 2025. There were some really, right from the get-go, some really big problems. And that's because Mars was empowered to manifest his worst qualities from the beginning of the year. Mars went into the sign of debilitation in the sign of Cancer, where he lost his power to do good and promoted war, violence, conflict, natural disasters, dominance, maybe in your own life, some unexpected, unwelcome changes, conflicts, these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So this becomes the sand in the oyster of 2025 that ultimately is leading to the pearl that we're encountering now briefly as Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer until the 5th of December, giving us a sneak peek of 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So 2025 had this kind of catalyzing negative Mars energy. The shift of Saturn always brings some disturbances, especially in terms of world diplomacy. And then Rahu and Ketu, the nodes of the moon, the karmic axis, also shifted. Rahu going into the sign of Aquarius, which has accelerated artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can underestimate its impact.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now we're all enjoying laughingly using ChatGPT. And it is
Yes
funny.
and no.
Yes and no. I mean, and it has, it does have some really amazing benefits.
Sure.
For humanity. And whether we like it or not, this is the reality. I mean,
yeah.
This the future is now.
Yeah.
But the real impact on us has not yet been felt.
Mm-hmm.
And that impact is spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's where the robot cannot go.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's say more about that, unless there's other things you want to make sure you mention about 2026 first.
No, that's okay. We can go to that because this is a big theme.
Yeah.
That really becomes relevant right at the beginning of the year. Well, a little bit into the year. February 17th to March 17th, we have what's called a stellium, or a stack of planets in the sign of Aquarius. And Aquarius is technology, it's future. It's also past future. It's recovering from the past that which is most valuable for the future. So it tends to be egalitarian, agrarian, pre-industrial, while at the same time being high tech. It's like Star Wars is the classic Aquarius
Uh-huh.
archetype, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, people dressed in Elizabethan style costumes, but possessed weapons and technologies that we can only still dream about.
Right.
So that's Aquarius. And so we have a stellium of planets coming in February, and Aquarius is where Rahu sits now, and Rahu is all about the futuristic innovations, artificial intelligence, robots, high tech, all this kind of stuff. And so he becomes sort of the central focus of this stack of planets. The stack of planets, all that means is every aspect of life gets influenced.
Okay.
And the eclipse season takes place in this period of time. We have the solar eclipse. I can't remember what date it is now, but it's in that time period, the solar and lunar eclipse, March 17th to February 17th, March 17th.
That's right.
So what happens is this is when the impact of AI starts to hit the workforce. Because at the same time, unlike 2025, Mars is not debilitated, meaning he has power to do harm. He's combust. So what does Mars combust mean? It means the weakening of the workforce that is affected by this. So this sets the stage for the crisis of identity. And it also sets up like an economic problem as well, potentially.
Sure. Yeah.
So this leads into what your question is about,
Spiritual renaissance.
Spiritual renaissance.
And I think, for myself, I mean, we're all listening to what you share, whether it's here on this podcast or in other sessions with you, and thinking about, what does this mean to me? What does this mean to me? Right. And of course, if you really want to know that, you can have a personal session with Dr. Katy. But I'm thinking about the listeners of this podcast who are largely yoga teachers, yoga therapists, myself included in that lot. Right. And so in this shift and this call for spiritual renaissance, really, what do we do? How do we operate as yoga teachers and yoga therapists and folks who are operating in this realm of spirituality? What makes us different, and how can we best position ourselves or be there for what's to come? I don't even know if I want to say position ourselves, but be there for what's to come.
Oh, this is a great question. So as I mentioned, 2025 was a 9-year. 2026 is 1 year. Numerologically, it connects to the number 1, which is all about this question of who am I?
Yeah.
But it's also a call to align with your inner calling, your inner self, who you came here to be. And when we're encountering a shift in the workforce, this is when the entrepreneur comes forward. And we've seen this throughout history. Napoleon Hill wrote a book about it, Think and Grow Rich. During the last Great Depression, when everybody was standing in the bread lines, there were a few individuals who rose to the occasion and created the new industries. And he wrote Think and Grow Rich, which shares the traits that all of these entrepreneurs had in common at that time. So what's happening now is a similar kind of thing. This is a call for the spiritual entrepreneur because Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, which is the most spiritual sign in the zodiac. It's the collective consciousness. It's the, the rising of the collective towards source. And Saturn sitting there is to give form to that. So what does this mean for yoga teachers, healers, meditation teachers, pranic healers, Reiki masters, the full spectrum
Yeah.
of all of us who have been somewhat fringe to the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Now actually have a lot of value to share. Because when there is a collective existential crisis, where do these people turn? So, as I've often shared, that we're in a repeat of the 1960s, that decade. And everything comes in cycles. So we're in that same kind of pattern that we saw in 1960, 1970, 2020 to 2030 is a repeat to that. And 1960, 1970, I mean, we can talk about so many amazing things that happened that changed our world. But one of them was the introduction of yoga into the popular consciousness. And all of those teachers who came from India, and they were mostly sages on the stage, male authority figures, followed by a lot of women. Now in 2020 to 2030, it's a similar spiritual renaissance. It's a great leap in consciousness that we're experiencing, only it's not led by sages on the stage, but guides on the side. Hordes of mostly women, teachers, healers, masters of their own disciplines coming forth to share with the world as spiritual entrepreneurs. This is an Aquarian kind of model. An Aquarius symbol is that of the woman at the well. Who gathers the water and brings it back to her village home that doesn't have indoor plumbing. It's pre-modern. And yet when she pours out her vessel, water doesn't come out, but rather air pours out. So the air represents those nourishing evolutionary ideas that come from our distant past that are brought into the future through the agency of women. So, I mean, I imagine a lot of our listeners are women practitioner, teachers, masters who have been developing their gifts for decades, like you. I mean, I'm speaking to you, Michelle, right? Who have been developing, teaching, mentoring, guiding for a long time, becoming masters. Those same masters that came in the 60s are now expressed through all of us who have adopted those teachings and done our 10,000 hours. Now is the moment that the world needs those gifts. So it's really a time to step up with them. And the Saturn energy really makes you have to confront your limitations, your self-sabotages, your self-doubts and uncertainties, and push them aside for the greater good, because the world is going to need a lot of support and help navigating these changes.
Wow. Yeah. That was some really great insight. I guess as we wrap up here, and I'm certainly going to include links and things like that in the show notes so people can find out more. But say a listener wants to get prepared right now for 2026, maybe what's the first step they should take based on what we've talked about here today? Find their moon sign, focus on a specific practice. What is it?
Yeah, find your moon sign. And you can find it on my website for that, my moon sign calculator, which is VedicMoonSigns.com.
Great.
And buy my book,
Yeah.
Signs for the Soul, available on Amazon. By the time this is broadcast, it will be available to buy on Kindle or a print version.
Wonderful. Well, as always, it's so great to speak with you. I look forward to having my own personal session with you in a week or so, too. And I hope our listeners are inspired by this conversation and feel like they can take some steps to embrace what's to come.
Thanks so much for having me on the show, Michelle. It's always so much fun.
Thanks again for listening. If you're interested to learn more about who we are and what we do, check us out at innerpeaceyogatherapy.com.